Good afternoon. My name is Erica Antone, I am our WTS Philadelphia chapter president. I am so excited for everyone to join us today for our professional development seminar. At this time, I'd like to recognize our sponsors. Without our corporate partnerships and agency partnerships, we would not be able to host events like today and throughout our term. At the platinum level, we have AECOM, Burns, GPI, HDR, Jacobs, STV, Traffic Planning and Design, and Urban Engineers. At the Trailblazer level, CNS companies, Conrail, Gannett Fleming, Gilmore and Associates, Hatch, HNTB, JMT, Michael Baker International, Pannoni, and WSP. At the champion level, Envision, McCormick Taylor, RS&H, Sawinski Sullivan, Stokes Creative Group, Taylor Wiseman Taylor, excuse me. At the advocate level, Aero Aggregates, Aurora, Benesh, Bergman, CDM Smith, Global Program Partners, Kimley Horn, KMJ Consulting, Langen, McMahon, Majeski and Masters, RK&K, Remington and Bernick, Stantec, Trans Systems, and WRA. Our DDE partners include Aero Land Solutions, Bree and Associates, Dovetail Cultural Resource Group, Drive Engineering, Hunt Engineering Company, JBC, KS Engineers, Malik and Shear, Navarro and Wright, NTM Engineering, Promatech with a fancy new logo, Rig Consulting, Rabinski Engineering, and Susquehanna Civil. And finally, our agency partners include Amtrak, the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, the City of Philadelphia Office of Transportation Infrastructure and Sustainability, Philiport, PHL and PNE Airports, and SEPTA. So a huge thank you again to all of our sponsors. I will now hand the program over to Jen Walsh, who is our Director of Professional Development for our chapter. Jen?
Thank you, Erica, and good afternoon, everybody. First, I just want to thank Ty and the entire panel for making themselves available for this interesting topic. And before we get started with the program, I did want to just mention a few upcoming events for everyone to keep an eye out for. July 14th is our supply chain dynamics topic at Notary Hotel. So if you haven't signed up, please register for that. It's going to be a great event. Then I'd also like to have you keep your eyes out for some upcoming great topics under our Learn from a Leader series that we always hold over the summer. The first one will be kicking off this Thursday with Kelly Yemen and a bike tour, followed by a great presentation on fun family living in an urban environment. So registration is still open. That's going to be this Thursday, July 30th. You can register for one or both parts of the event. Indigo bikes will be available for no fee, or you can bring your own bike. So again, if you've not registered yet, please sign up. It's going to be a great topic and a great experience biking around the city. Some other topics that we're going to be having, and we're right now trying to nail down dates and locations, but just to give you an idea of what we're thinking of for this summer, we're going to be having a panel on or a discussion on Golf Etiquette 101. We're going to be having a charcuterie board demo and party planning discussion, having someone from talking about transportation planning in New Zealand, the topic of creating an outdoor oasis, which we all love during the summer, a topic on fighting fires and managing the clock, and then finally some money management tips during this rise in inflation. So again, keep your eyes out for these great events. Kate Russo is taking the lead on the Learn from a Leader series and is doing a great job setting everything up. So this Thursday, first one, get registered and join Kelly for a great bike tour and some information on fun family living in the city. Now I'd like to turn it over and introduce our panel. The topic today is buying real estate in a crazy market. So I appreciate Ty pulling together this panel of experts to discuss this topic. Ty McGilberry is CEO and Managing Partner of Pegasus Financial Planning and Pegasus Management Services. He is a Philadelphia native that wanted to pursue a career in architectural engineering, but changed majors prior to graduation. After graduating from Penn State University, Ty worked for Vanguard, where he worked in several departments, including Retail Investors Group, Institutional Investors Group, and Financial Advisor Services. Ty began his financial planning practice in 2013 and founded Pegasus Financial Planning in 2017 with one mission to educate clients about their options for financial success. It is with this mission that drove Ty to support WTS, Comto, AMAC, and other great organizations as they provide professional development to their members. So Ty, thank you for putting the panel together, and I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Jen. It is our pleasure to be here, at least it's mine. Please put any questions you have in the chat. You can ignore Patty Gibson while we're at it. But I'm going to introduce our members here. I'll start with Maya and let her tell you a little bit about herself. And then we'll go with Paula, and then finally Mike.
Hi, Ty. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Maya Felsenstein. I'm a realtor with Compass Real Estate based out of New Jersey. I have experience starting back in 2002, which we call the Wild West, starting with mortgage broker, loan originator, switched into mortgage operations and processing, where I stayed for 15 years before becoming a realtor here in New Jersey. I started with Weichert and quickly grew my business, switched over to Compass about 1.5 years ago and continued to grow. I now have a team and I help clients all through South Jersey. I team up with the best of the best in the industry. My team helps all of my clients top to bottom, inside and outside, helping them guide them through all aspects, considering the experience that we have, to help them make the best possible educated decision on what kind of investment they want to make, whether it's an investment property, a second home, or a primary residence. We're here to help with all of that. And I am just so thrilled to be here among leaders in the industry. So thanks again for having me.
Hi, I am Paula Hune. I'm the branch manager at the Crown Home Mortgage Philadelphia office. Similar to Maya, kind of started in an awkward time. I got my foot in the door in finances and banking and mortgages back in 2007. So that was fun and interesting. Specialized in mortgages around 2011, where that's all I did. Previously, I was doing business banking, business loans, business banking, personal loans, mortgages, everything. Wanted to just kind of focus in on the mortgages, which I love. The reason I got into mortgages is because when me and my husband first bought our first house, we had such a terrible experience. We just dealt with a lot of people who did not have our best interest in mind. And I knew for a fact that that there was a better way to do things. And throughout my career, that's kind of what I focused on. I learned from the best and then put my little spin on it. So through that, I was able to start building a team. So I started building my team about 2 years ago here with Crown. And the culture here is phenomenal. We are a more family type company. So I can reach out to anyone that I need to get what I need done. And growing my team has been an exceptional experience because I've been able to add a lot of diversity into this industry and also just create great wealth and support to not only my team, but the people that we help, our realtor clients, our referral partner clients, and also our actual borrowers, right? That's, in the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs. I've navigated through everything. I don't sweat the small stuff. And hopefully today we'll be able to tell you guys how not to sweat the small stuff in this crazy, interesting market right now. And again, thank you so much, Ty, for inviting me. And I'm happy to be here.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me. My name is Mike Coleman. Ty, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. I fell into real estate accidentally as I was starting law school back in 2009, and it took off and I loved it. So I dropped out of law school twice before eventually finishing. My background's actually in social work. So I went to school for social work and law to work with kids that are in the foster care system, which I'm fortunate to be able to do now. And the real estate is what helps me be able to do all of that stuff on the side, which is a lot of fun. So I thought this was going to be temporary, but it became a full-time thing. I've got a team of 32 now. We'll be at 50 by the end of the summer, which is pretty exciting and also a little stressful. But we're getting there. And 13 years in the business. We've got a really tight-knit family of agents that love helping their clients, and it lets me do some really fun stuff. So I help run a group home outside Baltimore. I've been there for 17 years, and I get to work as a child advocate in the Philadelphia area and do some other cool stuff like that on the side. So it's become a means to a really cool end for me, and I love what I do. So thank you.
You know, I like having all three of you involved because all three of you have very different backgrounds. And, you know, I know each of you slightly differently, you know. Paul and I have emailed mainly, so this is the first time we've actually seen each other and heard each other's voice, where Maya and I have shared drinks together, and Mike lives within walking distance of me. So,
and I'm also your easiest client. I know you don't want to say that, but I'm going to say I'm definitely the easiest client.
I don't know, Mike. I think I'm his easiest client.
Maya, you are
Sense
not
of
even
challenge.
close to being on the same level as Mike. And that's a good thing. I would never use the term easiest client when defining Mike. Maybe most interesting. So, you know, there's a lot of things going on in real estate right now. You know, and I think real estate is always one of those industries that is just crazy, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. But what are some of the trends that you've seen since when you first started that are no longer around, and some of the trends that maybe you see that are around and you're like, okay, this has got to change?
Okay, so I'll take that one first. So when I got into real estate as a salesperson, a real estate agent in 2019, it was just really the start of multiple offer situations. We were starting to shift out of that true buyer's market and more into a seller's market, especially here in South Jersey. I'm only licensed in New Jersey, so I'll only speak to that. What I'm seeing now, obviously, we've gone through the COVID market, which was, for lack of a better terms, completely insanity. With multiple offers, you can't even breathe. You have to get to the house within a drop of a hat, or you're already 20 offers behind. The current market, which I felt just a very slight shift about 3 to 4 weeks ago, now more so a little bit because things are starting to settle, is a slightly less insane seller's market, yet still buyers need a house and we have lack of inventory here in South Jersey. So where I may have been seeing 30 plus offers ranging anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 over asking, I'm now seeing maybe 5 to 7 offers with a little bit more of consideration to where we are in the market. Now I'm seeing maybe $30,000 to $50,000 over asking, with 5 to 7 offers. And when I say that, I'm talking about your median house, $350,000 to $450,000. Those are the numbers, obviously relative when it comes to different pricing. But that's where I'm seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of bucket shifts where people who may have been looking at 3% interest rates, we're looking at those $500,000 homes, are now looking at 5.5% interest rates, and Paula will talk to that. And they've had to shift their bucket because they still need to account for some of that over asking flexibility in the pricing. I don't know, Mike, you're in PA. What are you seeing the same types of trends that I'm seeing?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head as far as what we're seeing here. And it's really interesting on both the buyer and seller sides. And we have a pretty good business on both, but the conversation with sellers is so different because they want to price their homes like it's 2021 and it isn't, or even like it's January 2022 and it isn't. So the way rates have doubled and inventory has picked up a little bit, it's really punishing sellers who want to be aggressive. And you used to be able to throw a number out and you would get it or something close to it and it didn't matter. But now you have to be that much more strategic. And we are seeing homes sit on market a little bit longer. But then too, even the advice we would normally give isn't always proving to be accurate right now. So I put a house on the market a week and a half ago. It had slow activity. Feedback was that it was a little overpriced. And so I said to my clients a week in, we should really think about a slight reduction to get activity. And then we got a full price offer 2 days later with no contingencies. So it's hard to really know what the buyers are going to do right now as we kind of navigate this shift in real time.
Nothing much.
Yeah, so I kind of have a different perspective being on the lending side of it. So I have a lot to actually say on this topic. So I'm trying to pick out the most important. I think the biggest shift that I saw during the COVID last 2 years was the absolute hatred for FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans, any of your government loans. Like there's an absolute hatred out there. And that really hurt. Like that hurt my heart because I live and breathe mortgages, because these aren't bad loans. These are just different programs that help people get in houses. And it just really sucked because there was a lot of people out there who had, this was their buckets. This is where that would get them in a house, and they would just get outbid or overbid because of the theory that these were bad loans. The government is backing them. The government wouldn't back them if it was a bad loan. It's just they're able to approve it. And when you're dealing with, you got to deal with the right people to get them to move smoothly. That is 100% sure. But it was very frustrating. It was very heartbreaking a lot of times on my end to hear someone that, we worked really hard to get them qualified or pre-approved even, and to have their hearts broken so many times just because they had to go FHA and they're like, can I go conventional, which is just a different program. That's all that means. And it was just heartbreaking to say, this is what you qualify for. There's nothing I can change. Here's what we have to do. You have to do this, that, and the other thing, which to some people were these huge mountains to climb over, and it took them out of the market. Now, luckily, I know what's going to happen because this is just general movement. What's going to happen is those people that Maya just talked about that are now out of their buckets, well, they may still want to buy a $500,000 house. Well, if they were conventional, they can still buy that $500,000 house. They just got to go FHA. So you're going to see a lot more FHA offers out there. One, because the rates are going to seem or feel better. Or sometimes that's the best financial opportunity for a client to get a lower rate is sometimes to going FHA. Also, they can absorb a little bit higher risk in what we call debt to income ratio, which is how much you have versus how much debt you pay versus how much you make. So if someone still wants to buy that $500,000 house, they can do it if they go FHA. And so you're going to see a lot more of those. So my hope in the next couple of months is you're going to see more negotiating. That's the other thing that I missed. I don't even do the negotiating, but I missed seeing realtors doing their job and actually selling. It almost seemed like there was no selling in this market. There was no negotiating. It was just highest and best. That's it. No talk, no conversations. I think in New Jersey, you can't even write what we call love letters anymore. To explain why this seller wants to buy this house or this buyer wants to buy his house. It just kind of took a little of the human element out. So I'm hoping to see more of that human element in this industry, because that's what drives this business, is that we are humans helping other humans get a home. And there's so much value to owning a home. So that's what I'm going to say about that.
If I could just piggyback what Paula was saying as far as the communication aspect, I think those are the agents and the buyers in turn that are thriving in this market, is because before an offer goes in, you really have to have a conversation with the other agent and say, hey, what's important to your client? What do we need to know? Other than price, of course, everyone wants the most money, but what do we need to know about their settlement time frame? What's important to them? What can we do to make sure that this offer is aligned with what they want to see? And also it makes a difference if there's one offer or 8 in, right? And so for people that are used to the business just happening, I got in right after the crash, so I've always had to work for it and it's nothing new. And I think the ones that are winning offers are the buyers who have real advocates on their side that are getting as much info as they possibly can and using it to their advantage, which unfortunately isn't always happening.
I'm going to absolutely ditto that. And then I'm just going to add regarding FHA and VA. There are so many people who are afraid of those loans, having processed them for 15 years and having several clients, military clients, or FHA, not necessarily first-time home buyers, but again, guideline things. I get those loans approved. I get the offers accepted because it's not because the person can't afford it. First of all, your VA buyers are your best buyers. I don't care, hands down, a VA loan is your strongest buyer. The only time I've ever seen a VA loan not go through was because of a property issue. So VA is going to be very property specific, okay? So that's the only issues I've ever had on VA loans. Otherwise, income solid, employment solid, credit solid. Like VA loans are your best buyers. FHA loans, what people don't realize is the intricacies that are within the guidelines of the FHA. And again, Paula will speak more, but my experience, FHA does give you a little bit more flexibility on your debt to income ratio, and they calculate student loans differently. And I don't know about anybody else in here, but if you went through college, you've got some student loans. And FHA is now calculating it at 0.5%, whereas conventional is that 1% of the total due as your payment, especially if you don't have backup documentation. So again, FHA just allows buyers a little bit more flexibility, and they're really a good buyer as well. It doesn't mean that they're a bad buyer. So being able to explain that to other agents, I feel like, and what Mike said, you've been around since 2009, 2007, when things were completely in flux. There are so many regulations that were put in place starting 2015, when trade came to order, when Dodd-Frank was passed, the CFPB, all of the government regulations. And I see investors, I'm just going to wait until the market crashes. Guys, the market's not going to crash. There's way too much cash flowing in this market. There's way too much down payment. Even FHA, I have an FHA buyer putting 15% down. They only need the FHA for the DTI issue, but they've got the cash and they're bridging the gap and they're doing all the things that they need to do. And we're about to get our offer accepted today. So remember that it's working with a team of professionals that know what they're doing, can be strategic in their offers, has a lender that's backing you up and copied on every single offer so that they can immediately go to the agent, call them and say, hey, I've reviewed their income. I've reviewed everything. All we need to do is find them a home. And then we can close this loan. Those are the things that are really important, and making those phone calls in advance, like Mike said, and building that rapport and that bit of trust with those other agents. If you just shoot over an offer, A, it could end up in spam, and B, where's the personality? Where is that, hey, this is how I do business, this is how my lender works. All of those things help create a sense of trust, because during the entire process, we're constantly talking to each other, whether it's scheduling inspections, navigating repair requests or not, and navigating appraisal issues, whether it's low values or some minor little tweaks of safety issues that the FHA or VA may require. Those are the types of things that really help when we develop those relationships up front with those agents.
You know, I think, I mean, you all know, because we know each other, that I'm a big believer in communication and planning and things like that, because, you know, for the clients I have that were looking to buy houses, we've been working on that for years. It's not something where they come to me and say, okay, I just hired a realtor, now what do I do? You know, it's been part of their financial plan. But it's an emotional experience to buy a home. And, you know, it's an emotional experience from the financial side of it, because, you know, people are like, oh my God, this is a lot of money. What's going to happen to my savings? But then once you get to that point, how do you help the people who they're ready to buy the house, but now they're constantly getting outbid and now they're getting frustrated, and maybe they're getting frustrated with the agent, or they're getting frustrated with the loan person because the process is what it is, and now they're getting outbid.
Good.
I was gonna say, I'll take that one first. So, because I'm sure you guys have a lot more to say on your end of it, but on my end, we've actually come up with a couple different unique programs to try to help those poor people who are getting outbid all the time, and it depends on their financial situation. So again, it starts with the communication, developing a plan, which you mentioned. I also call the listing agent and communicate with them when they put in an offer, because sometimes, as Mike said, sometimes it's not just about that price, it's about something else. So I'll call them and I'll let them know, this is a good buyer, this is what I did, this is what we've looked at, this is what we've analyzed. And we've won, Mike can contest, we've won bids that way, because they saw that I, as a lender, am willing to communicate, which doesn't always happen. And number two, it shows that, people are really fighting for that client, and they actually care about both sides. I want you to be comfortable with your decision using my client as from the lending standpoint. We want to all be on the same page. And if we need anything addressed, we can talk about it together. Like I said before, negotiate what we're here to do. And the third thing that I've tried to do to help is, not tell someone, great, congratulations, you're qualified for $500,000. And that's the tip of the iceberg for them. 5,001 puts them out of the market, right? I'll tell them up to, but then my pre-approval letters have been 50,000 less, 30,000 less, to give them that wiggle room and that quality to kind of go up if they need to. And then communicate that with Maya or a Mike or whoever the realtor is saying, look, this is your bucket, this is what you got. And again, it's all in that communication. Here's what the real estate taxes I'm using are. If they're higher than that, please contact me or my assistant first. We'll make sure it works before you even show the house, before they fall in love with the house. That's another thing. The fourth thing I was going to say is know your numbers before you go look at that house. Know what your minimum payment is going to be, know what your total out of pocket is going to be, and make that decision on whether or not it's worth it. You got to think to yourself, if this house went for $1 more, would I be heartbroken I didn't go that $1 more? And if the answer is yeah, I would, well, maybe you should go a little higher. Maybe it was no, I wouldn't be heartbroken if it went for $1 more. Okay, now you know your limit. Now you know where you're stretched. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and it's funny, what you just said is exactly the gut check that I give my buyers when we're putting in escalation clauses. They say, what's my max be? Well, you tell me what your max is. And we go through that exercise until they're like, no, I don't care. If it's $1 more, I'm fine, I can live with it. But to Ty's question, I mean, in 2020, I had a buyer look at 90 houses and she made offers on 17 and she got the 17th one and she's really happy. It was stressful for that, 12 months. But during the buyer consult, I prepped them for this, and that, because the better job we can do of getting them ready for what they're diving into, they're not surprised then when they get outbid. And sometimes it's a learning experience. Sometimes we can give the best advice, but they have to kind of lose a couple to realize, okay, actually that strategy didn't work for me, like let's do it this way this time. So, and they kind of need, some buyers, really kind of need to feel that a little bit and be like, you know what? I went with what my gut said. It didn't work. We're going to try a different approach on the next one. But I always tell them, whatever house you end up in, that's the one you were supposed to get. So if it doesn't work, it's not working for a reason, and during the process, they hate it sometimes. But at the end, they're like, oh, you were right. I love this house. This is far better than the other 3 that I thought were the one, right? So I would say it's all in the initial consult and prepping them for that. And 2, I mean, we just had one of my agents got an offer accepted that was not the best offer, but it was accepted because it was cleaner than the one that came in that was full of misspellings and all kinds of errors. And the listing agent was like, I don't think I can handle this. It's not going to go well. So it's just making sure that everything's as tight as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to work with a professional that actually knows what they're doing. It's a huge thing. And as an agent, I want to co-op with another agent that knows their stuff too. if I get an offer that has misspellings and it's like handwritten stuff all over the place and I don't know what your offer is, it makes it really difficult for me to present it adequately. I do a buyer consult, like what Mike said. Basically, we sit down, we talk about it. I like to do it on Zoom if we can't meet in person. Sometimes we'll even bring in Paula. Paula, just in case anybody hasn't figured out, Paula's my preferred lender. So sometimes we'll Zoom, we'll bring on Paula, we'll talk about strategies. Okay, well, here's your max budget. Maybe we look in a bucket slightly under, gives us the flexibility for over asking. Maybe what we do is say, wait, we've already gone 50,000 over asking. It's never going to appraise. You don't want to bridge that much of an appraisal gap. Let's try and figure out other strategic ways to net the seller more money. Wow, we maybe give them $2,500 towards their closing costs. Doesn't impact the appraisal at all. And it's direct to the seller. That's one thing. Another thing is understanding and explaining inspection issues right now. To quote Mike, if we were a month ago, everybody's waiving everything. I don't care what the inspection says. I don't care what the appraisal says. This market, as of 3-4 weeks ago, is a little bit different. I'm not strategizing inspections as let's waive it and forget it and see what happens. My job is to look out for my client's best interest. That means we're still going to do an inspection. Maybe we're not going to nitpick on a loose toilet seat, but maybe we are looking at, oh, well, there's mold in the basement. We need the seller to remediate that. Maybe it's something environmental or safety that, I know the CO is going to pick up, because I look up the CO requirements for the different towns, make sure that, hey, that's going to be a CO requirement. We don't need to add that to the inspection request list. They're going to have to do it anyway. So those kinds of things. And again, talking with the agents to let them know, like, hey, I saw this and you're going to get dinged on it on the CO. We're not asking for it, but just FYI, it's there. Those kinds of things. Having that rapport with them helps. In regards to Kelly, who said that she keeps losing offers, I feel so terrible. A couple of things that Mike said, escalation clauses are a really great option. It allows you to expand your budget without writing a blank check. Think of it, if you're not familiar with it, as like buying something on eBay. And then, for student loans, if you have home equity and you want to take care of that, if the rate makes sense, go for it. That's how I got rid of my student loans. But I'm going to let Ty take that.
I'm glad you did that, because that was going to be the next question I went with. There are drawbacks and benefits to using home equity to pay off student loans or credit cards and things like that. For credit cards, a lot of times it makes perfect sense because you're taking a debt that has 19-20% interest and lowering it down to, well, the last couple of years was, low threes. Now you're looking at maybe close to 6%. Student loans are a little different because if you have federal student loans, by refinancing them, whether you do it in your mortgage or not, you're going to lose any tax deductibility if you even have that based on your income. But I always suggest that people be very careful about taking a non-secured debt and now be creating a secured debt out of it, because if something was to happen, they can take your house. Where before, if you can't pay your student loans, well, they might garnish your wages, but you're not going to lose your house. So you have to be very careful and strategic and make sure that whatever you're doing is part of a greater kind of plan. And it's not just, oh, someone told me that this would be a good idea. And so, my neighbor said that they did it, so why don't I do it? Especially right now, where most student loans, depending on how old you are going to be, if you're my age, because I'm old, my student loans are in the 2s. For new or younger people, their student loans might be in the 6s or 7s. So what's the real benefit from a percentage standpoint if I'm refinancing this loan and my mortgage is already 6%, to have you know, a 6% student loan. Like, just leave it the way it is, and, you know, pay them the way they are. You also can't have forbearance and forgiveness and things like that if you do the refinance. So there's a lot that goes into it. I would just suggest that you have a deeper conversation, even if you don't just have the tax deductibility, Patty. So that was actually going to be a question I had for Paula, because with the refinancing craze that we saw really coming to an end towards the end of last year, you know, what suggestions or advice were you giving people around refinancing and strategies for doing it, why they should do it, why you should do a cash out refi, and why you shouldn't, things like that?
Sure. So it really comes down to when I get a client who's talking to me about refinancing, and again, right now it is a little less, but they're still happening. It's normally a needs-based conversation. So I have to find out exactly what they're looking to do and why they're looking to do it and what it's going to mean to them to have it done. For example, if they're paying $1,000 in credit card debt right now, even though, yes, it is unsecured, how is their life going to change by having that $1,000? If I can make everything equal, having that $1,000 back in their pocket, are they able to save more and have a buffer and not have to worry about not paying their mortgage? It's those types of conversations. The other thing, when it comes to like home improvements and things, again, we have a conversation. How's it going to impact your equity? How is it going to impact your lifestyle? You know, maybe you're going to stay home more because now you have a backyard that you love, the oasis that I think Patty was talking about. And I love that word, by the way, because those are catchphrases I hold on to, you know, because that's what you got to remember you're doing. Is it going to, you know, what would be the interest rate on, let's say, a construction loan or financing it through a contractor versus using the equity that's in your house? Yes, your rate may go up higher than it is now, but what's the difference? What's the payment? Let's do some research first rather than just diving right into, oh, you're doing a cash out refinance to make a debt. Great, here you go. Here's your payment. There you know, you've got to find those things out because, you know, I think he's on the point. You got to find, you know, you got to find all the information first. You can't just say, oh, my neighbor did it this way. This is how I have to do it, because your neighbor has a whole other set of situation and a whole other financial background that you know nothing about. So they may have done it and it sounds great for them, but for you, and you might have other needs, implicit or explicit, that you need to uncover first. So always have a conversation with your mortgage rep or your financial planner. Actually, financial planner always should come first, no matter what financial decision you're making. They should be the first one you talk to because they know your whole situation without having to bombard you with like 80,000 questions. They already know you. They already know what your goals are. They already know what the impact could be. Then you can talk to, you know, your trusted advisors like me as a mortgage rep and whatnot about, okay, talk to my financial planner. This is some suggestions they made. What do you have for me? And not to shamelessly plug you.
I'm so sorry.
But
I'm
it's
just
the
reading
truth.
Patty's comments. I am so sorry.
What was that?
I can't take Patty. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Sorry, I'm just catching up now.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. That's okay. A cat sanctuary. That's interesting. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to when it comes to refinancing with these higher rates. Yeah, you're not doing it just to lower your monthly payment. There's other needs and wants, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to do. It may actually be better, even though you're changing your interest rate to a higher rate. In a sense, I hate to say it this way because, I mean, long-term it does matter, but rates don't really matter. It's what you're getting out of it and what you're accomplishing that will change your life and your lifestyle. That's what matters. And if it gets you one step closer to your goals, again, with proper analysis, it could be the best thing for you.
Marry the home, date the rate. Really, Maya?
Oh, I hate that.
Stop it.
Well,
I
you can
love that
refinance it,
saying.
So I guess you're divorcing the rate, so I get
That's
it.
pretty clever.
Feel free to use it, Mike, because I love that. I heard it from somebody else. I can't even remember who it was, but I was like, that's exactly what it is. So when you're out there and you're buying, and I explained this to one of my buyers the other day, she was so caught on the rate. And I said, let's focus on the house. Like, on average, people refinance their house within the first 3 to 5 years. So you get in the house, and on average, 3 to 5 years, you've refinanced it. And at the end of that time, now you're going to another rate. Maybe you're consolidating. Maybe you're doing a home improvement project, whatever it is. A couple years later, you're going to refinance again. I've lived in my house 8 years. I've refinanced 3 times. So again, you're marrying the home. You're just dating the rate. So don't be so freaked out about what's going on in the rates right now. They go up, they go down. I mean, listen, in the 80s, they were 18%. Does anybody here had an 18% mortgage in the 80s? And my mom did. But, you know, I had the opportunity to refinance right at the first summer of COVID, and got a great rate. Not touching that. Doing a renovation right now, and we got a home equity line because it made sense. I, of course, consulted with Ty multiple times over the past 2 years about this, because this has been my goal. And here we are, but I'm getting my kitchen. I'm getting my whole first floor redone. But it's important just to remember that the object is to get, for me anyway, is to get you in a house you're going to love, that fits the needs of your family, in the neighborhood you want to be in, for the best possible price. You know, see, there we go. 12.5%, 1984.
So one of the questions is, how do you help people who are thinking about getting into real estate investing when it comes to, because it's a different type of mortgage, it's a different type of buying experience. How do we navigate that?
All right, so from the mortgage standpoint, I actually love my investors. I love my investor clients. I love structuring investor plans. There's a lot you can do, but then there's a lot you can't do. First and foremost, you gotta have some sort of down payment. You're not getting an investment property or even a second home with, you know, less than 20-25%. Like, just plan for that, right? So you got to plan. You got to plan for your investment. Then the second thing I would say you have to do is decide whether you're going to be a flipper or a landlord, because those are 2 different avenues you can go. And then the third is, you know, how are you going to structure business-wise? Are you going to be an LLC? You're going to do it individually. But if you're going to be like the one and done, just want like a duplex, I just have so much fun, because I believe in the power of investing in real estate. I think real estate is a fantastic way to build some wealth and generational wealth. But there are different parameters with the loan. Like, for example, no gifts, very little can you get in gifts. Again, you got to have money for the down payment. And again, we're talking 20-25%. 30% is a sweet spot, believe it or not, for the mortgages, for down payments. And you got to plan before you just jump into it. Do not jump into it. You'll hate it.
Yeah. If someone asks me if they should invest, my answer is always yes. It's just a matter of in what way and what your goals are. I wish I'd started sooner, and I let myself get caught up in, I don't have the money. Where am I going to find the money? And then I realized if I found the houses, there was money out there. And also I had an ex-wife that wouldn't give me the money, but now I fixed that. So anyway, Ty knows. But anyway, my belief, as Paula just suggested, is I don't know any other way to build wealth or long-term income in the way that you can through real estate. And I don't want to work till I'm 90. I probably will, but it'll be for fun. I want to have that financial freedom and leave a legacy for my kids. So, you know, I tell everyone, whether you want to flip, which of course the market has changed for flips, it's harder to find the deals. It's mostly people that are looking, you know, and doing marketing to off-market sellers. You're not going to find deals in the MLS right now, typically. But there are some people that, you know, are very successfully still finding those investments and finding flips and finding some good rental holds and My goal is 3,000 units. I just want $1 million a month in passive income. I'm not greedy. I just want 12 million a year. And then I can let Ty do his magic with it. But that's my mindset.
I completely agree. I do have investors as well who are flippers. I have some buy and hold investors. They're all having a hard time right now because of a couple of things. So you have your HGTV buyers, the ones who want everything all, done for them. Then you have the ones who are so frustrated with trying to find that HGTV house that they've lost out on 15 times to saying, you know what, I'll renovate a kitchen, or down the road, I'll do the bathrooms. Let me find something that needs a little bit more work. Then you have the ones who've gotten even frustrated in that market and have said, I'll take a complete fixer, which are the ones that your investors are really looking at, the ones that need to be cosmetically updated. The difference is that investors are looking at the bottom line and how much are they going to make? What's their margin? How much is it going to cost them carrying costs? And there's all kinds of different calculations that go into it. Whereas your buyer is saying, that's a really great price. I have the right kind of loan. I've got some of the cash and capital to put in for floors and paint, and I'll deal with the rest later. And you've got them being stronger buyers than your cash investors, because the sellers still want the most money. And they're going to say, well, why wouldn't I take a conventional buyer over a cash buyer that's offering me $20,000 under asking, when this person's offering me $20,000 over asking, and they're going to love and live in this property. So those are some of the things that my investors are running into. However, my buy and hold investors, those are the ones winning the bids. My flippers are the ones still kind of struggling to find properties. Those are the ones that I work within my network and my relationships and my contacts within the real estate market to say, hey, I have an investor and who's got something coming up. Let's do something off market. So I do have some of those that I'm working on, but for the most part, your buy and holds, the ones that are going to rent out, whether it's a duplex, you live in one side, rent out the other side, triplex, things like that. Those are really great opportunities if you can find the right one with the right income that makes sense. Those are really, really great opportunities to build some wealth. And like I quoted Warren Buffett, it's not let's wait to buy real estate, it's buy real estate, then wait, because real estate is a long-term investment.
So investments are always long-term investments. There was a question in the chat that I'm going to let the three of you answer, and then we're going to open it up to everyone else if they have any other questions. And it was, any recommendations for finding a trustworthy financial advisor? And what would be, I'm going to have Mike start, because I know Mike, why I ended up with Mike, and I'm just going to let him tell you what to look for in a trustworthy advisor.
I don't know what you did to get the karma that brought me to your doorstep, but nonetheless, so I had a financial advisor before Ty who committed some fraud, and I then sued. And thankfully, it was actually Ty that figured out what was going on and enabled me to be able to go after the other guy and be made whole, essentially. So as I guess what I would say is, number one, don't ignore red flags, because there were red flags. And I ignored them because this guy was referred to me through a friend that I trusted. And I still do. It wasn't the friend's fault. That guy's, the friend is now also suing. But there were some things along the way that did not feel right, and I did not trust my gut. And because of that, I ended up in a really bad place, along with about 20 other families that are all part of a lawsuit. So it was 100%, on me to not step up at the beginning and say, this isn't right, I should get out. And I would just make sure that they have a fiduciary duty to their clients, so you can use that. They're essentially held to a higher standard if they are in that kind of relationship. So hopefully they either abide by it, or if they don't, you have some extra grounds to go after them, which hopefully you don't have to do. But yeah, and make sure it's someone that listens and breaks it down to things you can understand and is patient when you don't get them anything they've asked for a year at a time. Right, Ty? Thank you.
At this point, I just let Mindy handle it, but
that's really the way to go.
What about you, Paula?
So I would say you don't worry about how much money you have or don't have. That's what they're there for. They're there to not care about how much you have right now. Their goal is to get you where you need to be to retire, whatever your goals are and whatnot. So someone's going to listen, like what Mike said, someone who, doesn't, you got to feel comfortable with them. And that's what anyone's helping with anything large in your life. You got to feel like they actually care. So ask your questions. Get some questions that you want to make sure you get answered, written down. And again, I'm a planner. I like to plan things. So plan before you talk to someone. And if they can answer your questions and make you feel comfortable and not give you any red flags, that's really how you determine anyone is going to be trustworthy in any large decision you're going to make, right? Is you kind of like interview them. And I think that's number one, interview them, make sure that you guys are going to be a good fit. And if you, if you haven't already met Ty, he is a financial planner. Just pointing that out. Can we call?
I'm going to add a couple of things. I'm going to add a couple of things in there. So one, Ty is my favorite financial advisor that I have. But I also have another financial advisor that's a cousin. Long story. My husband used to work at Merrill Lynch. We have a lot of stuff over there, but Ty does all of my personal stuff. One of the things that drew me the most to Ty was his comprehensive approach to my life and my goals for my family. Do you have a will? I remember that from our very first conversation. Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have health insurance? Do you have life insurance? Let's look at those policies. Let's look at what your other investments are doing. I have a trust account that was set up by my grandparents many, many years ago. I sent him that account. Make sure it's working for me. If it ever doesn't, I'm moving my money because I can't touch it because it's a trust without a lot of strings. So Ty is constantly every quarter reviewing my documents, reviewing everything, making sure that the structure that we've put in place, the things that he has on my list of things that I want to accomplish by a certain whatever goal that is, that I'm consistently moving and working towards that goal. So you want to definitely be working with somebody that has that comprehensive approach. It's not just about retirement. Okay. If Ty wasn't there in my corner, I'd probably be looking at 3 or 4 more years before I got my dream kitchen. And I didn't have to compromise on a single thing in my kitchen. I'm getting everything I wanted. Why? Because I work with a professional who looks at my entire package, everything about my life, financially, health, and insurance-wise, to make sure that I'm in the best possible place to do the things that I want to do and work to grow for my kids who are 9 and 11 to be able to get them to college and pay for their college, and then ultimately for me and my husband to travel the world when we're done, creating our conglomerate, our universe.
And
I remember that first conversation with you and your husband, because you were like, I definitely want my kitchen. And he was like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And one more thing about Ty is that he has the difficult conversations with you that I don't actually want to have with him sometimes, because he says things the way they are. But I need that. I need someone. He's like a financial therapist. So it's someone that says, hey, idiot, why did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. It sounded good at the time. So, I need someone that's going to call me on my BS, and I have plenty of it, as he can attest to. And he tries to, I go rogue all the time, but he tries to set me straight. He does a good job. And when I listen, it works out. It's just, I don't always listen.
To answer Patty's question, I'm getting my dream kitchen, but that faucet thing over the stove was not part of my dream.
Faucet thing over the stove. You know what? I'll find out about that later.
The pasta water, hot water filler thing. They just like.
Oh, that sounds like a waste of time.
I just felt that it was an unnecessary thing for my kitchen anyway. But I'm getting my drawer microwave.
Patty, you and Mike are definitely two people that go rogue. So thank you all for, I wasn't trying to have a Thai commercial there, but, when you're talking about interviewing an advisor, Mike brought up the fact that you want someone who's a fiduciary. And what that means is that, and he pointed out that they have a legal responsibility to you. And the other thing is that when you are a fiduciary, you have to be careful with the type of things that you recommend. And the industry is moving more and more towards that to begin with, because of a lot of things that have happened over the last really 30 or 40 years. Every kind of regulation that's come out is moving closer and closer to making sure that advisors, because they are a trusted advocate for, or they're supposed to be trusted, are doing what's in their best interest. But when you look at the list of top 10 industries where you have the least amount of trust, financial advisors are actually above used car salesmen. It's like attorneys, financial advisors, and then used car salesmen are like 7th on the list, but financial advisors tend to be in your top 2 or 3. And the reason is because of things like Mike has gone through, that there are a lot of commission-based advisors out there. And it's not that there's anything wrong with commission, but you have to make sure that you're interviewing people. And the one thing I've always told people, that when you're comparing me to someone else, is ask the financial advisor how you get paid. If you don't understand their answer, you don't have to come to me, but go to someone else that can clearly articulate that. But with that, let's open up to questions. I know we only have a few more minutes, but I think we've hit all the questions in the chat box, including some from Patty that were not exactly questions.
Yeah. Hi, this is Jen. I was just going to say, I was scanning through all Patty's comments. I think the only other part of what you guys just answered, and I assume the answer is yes, it is appropriate. They did ask if someone in their 20s should have a financial planner. And I think you'd all agree that sooner the better. I think the younger you are, the better you have to plan. So that was also part of the question. But I didn't find anything else.
You know,
but Patty, thank you for the commentary. You made me laugh too. I was on mute.
I can say to Erin, I'm going to be 46 this summer. I did not understand when I was in my 20s what a 401k was, how it worked, what it was there for, or anything. I left one of my first corporate jobs. Evidently, I had a 401k that got cashed out. Had no idea. Didn't understand that I could roll it in. I didn't understand any of those things. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I realized how important all of that was to being able to get me to a place where at 65 or 70, should I choose, I can retire, I can enjoy my life. I didn't understand all that in my 20s. I feel like if you can get with somebody that can at least explain the importance of that and how to structure that and how it matches, or how the things that are going on in your 401ks and life insurance policies that you get through your employer, and to grow on that, I think that's really important to get it as soon as possible, because I'm so far behind the 8 ball at 46 that I should have been starting in 22.
And the younger you are, you have time on your side. I tell my kids are only teenagers, but I tell them all the time that they have time on their side. So the younger you are, the better.
And so Maya and Paula, if you can put your contact information in the chat, that would be great. And what I would also say, Paula, Patty wants to know where the crown is from your pictures.
Patty's obsessed with the crown.
Yes. What I would say is that, I've got a handful of clients who started with me 10 years ago, who were in their 20s at that point, who are now in their 30s, and maybe they only started with $1,000, but that's not where they're at now. But I have other people who, even if we did start, maybe we started with just simple conversations in the beginning, and they weren't clients because they weren't at that point for themselves. But then years later, they became clients because they knew that they could reach out and just ask me questions and not feel like they were constantly being sold something. And so the earlier you start, the better. The more information you can have about your 401k, the more information you can have about your own finances, your budget, and stuff like that, the better. And then you can talk to everybody else when it's time for you to get your house, because you started in your 20s, and you'll be ready to talk to Maya and Paula and Mike. So Jen, thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you,
Been
guys.
great.
What a great discussion. I don't know if anyone, I'm assuming no one has any other questions. I think they got them all in the chat, but I think I speak for everyone on what great information that was. Very helpful for those that are trying to buy their first home, next home, or vacation home. So I really appreciate the time. I just wanted to look, see what the comments were. Okay, no more questions. So thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thanks,
rest of your
everyone.
week.
Thank
And
you
thanks
so
for everyone
much.
joining us.
Thanks
Thank
very
you. Have a great day.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.